Hello and welcome to Pat O'Keefe's World of Curiosities. It's good to be with you tonight. And tonight's a special night. I hope that you have a question for us. And if you don't, we're going to be going over some Appalachian Sayings. Now, I have opened it up so that we can have some readings if we do have time. So if you have a question that you would like to ask me in a psychic capacity, then please do. I look forward to hearing from you. And now we start. Let's talk about some Appalachian sayings. Now, I'm going to tell you, when we were around the house, Mama would, if she'd get mad at you, now I'm going to tell you, our parents and our grandparents often woke up and they chose violence. They chose violence. So it'd be like, get me that switch. That's one thing that I heard when I was growing up. Is get me that switch. And not only that, but you'd have to go out and and you would have to choose your switch. Now, you couldn't have it too small because if you got it too small, then they knew it and they would have you go out and they would have you get another one. This one, a little bit more sturdy. So, yeah, our parents and our grandparents chose violence at times, and it was get me that switch. Now, if somebody wanted to help you, they'd say, may I help you? That's one of the things that you might hear around the house, which is really cool. And then come here a minute. And you'd almost hear it like, mere minute. That's what you'd hear. It'd be so fast, especially with these older ones, older people in the community. It was like almost a shorthand that they had, which was really cool. And then you would have like right here for right here, if you've ever heard that one, right here, which is kind of fun. And then, of course, you've got y'all. Now, y'all is just you all. And you might hear all y'all. Now, all y'all is just a plural of you all or y'all, as we called it. So those were some that were common in the mountains. You'd hear them quite a bit. And then, of course, pert near. Pert near means pretty near, which is something that you might hear, Are we there yet? We're pretty near. So that's what you would hear. So if you have any questions, I hope you join us. Good evening to Becky. Thank you for coming. Oh, she'd like help identifying her spirit guides. Well, I'm going to tell you, Becky, and I will be real honest with you. I'm feeling for you someone that is very near to you, someone who is a grandparent. I don't know. It just feels like a very motherly but grandmotherly type of feeling. So it's ancestral. This, of course, will not be your only one. As you go down this path and you go to different frequencies, you're going to find that, and what do I mean by frequencies? Well, I mean that when you're on a very spiritual path, it's like our body attunes to certain frequencies as we journey down this path. And so as you go up this frequency, if you will have different types even of spirit guides. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you've got your ancestral guides, and then you can have angelic guides. And there are some people who have what we call ascended masters as guides. And those people would be people like, more than people, but Buddha or Jesus or someone in of that ilk who are truly ascended masters. And then, so I hope, Becky, if that helps you, let me know. I'm very happy to have y'all. Zia, thank you for coming, Zia. It's always good to see a good friend in the comments. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Let's see. And we've got, I thought we had another one come in. And oh, Becky, yes, thank you. So that does resonate with you. Wonderful. And if you have any other questions, just let me know. And if anyone out there has a question that somebody with psychic ability can help you with, just let me know. Now, the last one I've got in this one is, have any of y'all ever heard of a poke? Now, a poke is my granny's word, and it was an Appalachian word for simply a sack or a bag. So you might hear Granny say, got to get me that old poke and put some ramps in it if we were out looking for ramps. And it was really common for us to do that, to go out and we'd forage in the mountains, for ramps or, Grandma liked to ginseng. They call it singing in the mountains, like singing, I got to go singing. So that's something that you might hear. Now, some sayings that we might see would be something like, there's a fox in the hen house. Now, what does that mean? Well, it can mean that somebody's where they shouldn't, ought, as we would say, ought not to be. In other words, say you've got somebody that's just not a good person, and they're starting a church, and you know that the only reason they're going to that church is maybe to find somebody to court. So you might say, well, there's a fox in that hen house. So that's a kind of, you know, equivalent that you might find with that. Becky, it's good. Thank you so much again for coming. And Zia, thank you. All right. And so what else do we have? All right. Birds of a feather flock together. I think that one's kind of a common one that a lot of people have heard. And all it means, your mom might tell you, birds of a feather flock together. Don't you forget that. And that would mean that maybe you better watch out who you're palling around with, because like attracts like. So if you're palling around with good people, then you're going to attract goodness into your life, right? But if you're going out there with some bad people, then that's the kind of energy that you may attract into your life. So you have to be very careful about that. And Becky said, we always gather pokeberries. Oh, yes, Becky, absolutely. And poke. And the thing about poke is there's some parts of it that's good to eat, and then some parts of it, well, it could be fatal. So you got to be careful with poke, but pokeberries. All right. And what's some others? Well, we got thick as fleas on a dog's back. And what does that mean? Well, it just means a lot of folks around, or a lot of whatever it is you're talking about. Like if you went to the local market, you might say, ooh, and it was thick as fleas on a dog's back. It just means there's a lot of people around there, right? Which is kind of cool too. Our ancestors in these mountains had a lot of interesting things to say. Now, don't forget, those that are out there and listening right now, if you have a psychic question you'd like to have it answered, just let me know. All right. Now, this one I like. He could talk the legs off a chair. Now, what does that mean? Well, it simply means that he'll talk and talk and talk, and he's just a talker. Somebody that will talk until you go mad. And then slow as molasses in January. You might say that to some person that's just so slow, they'd never get anything done. Now, or somebody that just can't keep up. So that's the kind of thing that you might be looking at. Now, she's got a voice that would curdle milk. That's a saying that you might have if it was someone that that just had a terrible voice, a loud voice, or a voice that just wasn't a good voice. So it would be a voice that could curdle milk. Now, you might hear a bird in one hand is worth two in the bush. So that means that something that you've already got is worth something that you don't, right? So you have to be careful about what you don't have, because you don't want to give up what you do have for it. Now, that dog won't hunt. That means something, it's just not something that's not going to work. It's just not going to work, or it's not going to be effective or efficient. That dog won't hunt. So that's something you might hear. And if that don't make your wood burn, nothing will. Now, what that's saying is, if that isn't going to work, or that's not going to be effective, then nothing will. So that you may hear. And we've got an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Now, I know that many of you all have heard that, because that's kind of common, not just here, but in other places also. Hello, Julie Stump. It's good to have you. If you have a question, a psychic question that you would like answered, just let me know. It's good to have all of y'all with me. All right. Now, what does born on the wrong side of the blanket mean? Now, if anybody knows that, just put it in the comments below and I'll get back to it. Born on the wrong side of the blanket. And then, of course, don't do in the dark what you don't want to come out in the light. Now, that was told to me by my granny a whole lot of times, and I know that some of you all have heard that too, right? Oh, here's Becky. I've never considered myself Appalachian, but all of these sayings I agree up with. Yeah, absolutely. These are sayings that any of us, I think, that you grew up with. I'm sorry, but any of us can kind of connect with that. And these some of these, at least in principle, are universal, are they not? All right. Everything that glitters is not gold. Now, what does that mean? Well, we know what that means. Anything that glitters is not gold. Just because it glitters, just because it looks pretty or handsome, I'll never forget my granny used that once on me. She told me she was looking at a boyfriend I was dating. He had a bad reputation, but he sure looked good at the time. And she said, "Now, Pat, don't forget, everything that glitters is not gold." And my granny was right. She absolutely was right. So sometimes you've got to listen to the elders and take these old truisms because they are true and they go right to the soul of who we are as Appalachians. And beggars can't be choosers. If you're asking for something, do it with a humble heart and don't be picky about what you receive. And there's a new term. I didn't even know it until not too long ago. It's choosing beggars. And I saw some, I think it was on TikTok or YouTube. But anyway, people being really picky about things, right? And yet they're asking for things and being very picky about what they receive. So choosing beggars. And as the twig is bent, so shall the tree grow. Now, this one was used a lot with children because what it means is however you bend the twig is how the tree will grow. And so if you treat your child with love and compassion, you help the child in school, you can expect that child to do better than one that is ignored and unloved, unfortunately. It was just a mountain way of saying that. And then here's a good one. Better laugh to keep from crying. Better laugh than to keep from crying. These were hard times in these mountains. A lot of times there wasn't a lot of money. And back in the day, my granny's day, there were very few doctors that served these areas. And still, in some places, that is true. And so the philosophy was chin up, so to speak. Better to laugh about a situation than to cry about it. Because at least if you're laughing and feeling good about it, you keep going. You keep trying. You keep working towards something, right? Rather than letting, your negative emotions take over and bring you down. So, Bob Abbott he changed on me. Sorry, it's moving around. All right, Bob, let me see if I can find you. I'll get back to you. Here we go. Well, Bob, I saw you. There you go. It's also a reference to you reap what you sow. Yes, Rob, that is true. And that was something that was very common in the mountains too. You reap what you sow. In other words, be a good person. What you put out, you will receive back. I mean, they truly did believe in that because think about it. It's one of the things that they were learning in church is, whatever you put out there, you hope to receive back. That's why everybody tithed, everybody went to church. I remember many a summer where I would go to an old-fashioned tent revival. Now, I don't know if any of y'all have ever been to one of those, but it is hot in those tents. Hot, hot, hot. Hello, Miss Tabitha. Thank you for coming. And so everybody would get really into the preaching. The preaching was I mean, it was fire. I mean, it was fire and brimstone, and people. Yeah, I remember the preachers getting emotional and going into the audience, and the voice was raised, and I mean, it was entertainment and religion and spirituality all mixed into one, under a very, very hot tent. And so that was one of the memories that I have with my granny, because we did that quite a bit. And then, every tub must stand on its own bottom. That means that every individual must at some point learn to stand by themselves. So these were old time lessons that we received with these sayings that our grandparents would give us. Now, charity begins at home. Be kind to those around you and that you know, and then you can be kind to everyone else, but you must have that mindset with those that you love, and that those who are immediately around you. Just don't use charity to make yourself feel better or look better in the community. It should be something that comes naturally and from the heart. Now, here's one that Granny loved. I would ask her, Granny, where'd you hear that? If she'd say some news from town, and she said, oh, Pat, a little birdie told me. So that's one of the things that I heard. And a penny saved is a penny earned. That was important, because pennies were, they were a thing at one time. Now, understand, what is it, 2027, they're actually going to eradicate the penny. But during my grandma's time, a penny was a big deal. And so to say that is to save for the future. It's like you've earned that penny. So you might as well save it, and save it for a better time, or a time where you need it. So keep the money instead of spending it. Ain't never could do nothing. Now, I've heard this. Ain't never could do nothing. And this was about my own cousin, and I'm not going to name any names, but this was one trifling, as she would say, trifling individual. I'll never forget, I was about 15 years old, and I was working a job, because I started working when I was 14, but, part-time, and this was a part-time job. But I was out, and I was actually working in the woods. I was working with a team of people, and they were woodsmen, lumberjacks. And so I had this long saw on a long pole, and I'd cut off branches. I'd stand there, just cutting them branches off all day long. And I'll never forget, I looked over at my cousin sitting on the stump of a tree, just sitting there, and his daddy, who was a hard-working man, he was my great uncle. He came by and he said, Lords, he said, I wish he worked as hard as you did. I will never forget that. And it kind of made me proud, because I knew of my great uncle as he was a hard-working man and a good man. So that was certainly something to be proud of. Or at least I felt that way. Now, ain't got a pot to pee in. Now, what does that mean? Well, back in the day, you could actually sell your pee, right? And they would use it to tan leather with. That's way back in the old country, but still. So it's stuck. Ain't got a pot to pee in means you're so poor you can't even get a pot in which to pee to sell your pee. Now that's poor, isn't it? Ain't no hill for a climber. Ain't no hill for a climber. Well, that means that it's going to be easy for somebody who's an actual climber, right? So, we've got Christy. Christy, thank you for coming. It's so appreciated. If you have any questions, I'm doing psychic questions tonight too. So if you have a question you'd like to ask a psychic, just let me know, as long as it's a quick question. Now, Rob, he says, one of my fave, let's see. Gosh, I'm sorry, Rob. I'm so blind, and I've got this. Leopards don't change their spots. Oh, Lord, yes. Rob, that is so true. And you hear these people, male and female, and they're always saying, I can change him, or I can change her. But in reality, that's a good thing to remember, is that people don't change their spots. In other words, we are who we are. And it's very, very, if we want to change the way that we present ourselves and act, then it has to come from within. It has to come from the person. So thank you, Rob, for that. Let's see. And so yeah, you were really, really poor if you ain't got no pot to pee in. Of course, they actually said this is what Granny said, ain't got no pot to piss in. That's what she said. And then ain't never seen no, oh, I'm sorry, nothing of the kind. Ain't never seen. It was so weird. It was like seed. Ain't never seen nothing of the kind. And what that meant is just haven't seen it before, right? So if you heard somebody in these old mountains say that, well, it's just somebody that hadn't seen something before. And believe me, uh, some folks never got out of these mountains. In fact, and this was maybe 15 years ago when I was working at a college, they were talking about how few students in our region of Appalachia had ever been out of their county, not the state, not the country, the county. So that was something that you might hear of, ain't never seen no kind of, or nothing the kind of, something like that. Now, pretty is as pretty does was something that you would hear. And I love that because they really did put a lot of emphasis on the internal as well as the external, because in these mountains life was so hard that if you were pretty, it's going to be gone before long. Believe me, it's just not going to last. Plus, they put a lot of emphasis on family, on community, and on spirit. And none of that screams, I need to be a Kardashian. So people were nose to the grindstone to survive in these mountains. Foraging, like I've mentioned before, was a huge part of that. Putting out gardens, a huge part of that. Because without those gardens, you would die. When I was growing up, I mean, I'm sure you all know this. I've said it before. We were poor. We were very poor. And I mean, think about it. You're in the Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia, but you're in the Appalachian Mountains. And my mother back then was a single mother through no fault of her own. And so we had a very hard time in the mountains. But it's so funny. It was as hard as it was. There's so many beautiful memories that bring tears to my eyes, and the garden is one of them. My mother would go out there, and she told me she loved to feel the warmth of the earth, underneath her feet, and she loved to feel the earth around her hands as she was busy gardening. So it was a beautiful experience. So we were both poor and blessed at the same time. So those are good memories for me. But oh Lord, and because we were poor, I heard this several times. I had to rob Peter to pay Paul. And all that means is she had to shift money, maybe from something we might have wanted to have done or something that we were saving towards, and put it towards an electric bill or something like that. When I was 13 years old is when my parents divorced, and we came into West Virginia. And I will never forget. Mom told us, she said, "Now I want you to know that Christmas is coming." Because it was a few weeks before Christmas. And she said, "And Pat, we only have enough money to get the baby," which was my baby sister Tracy, something for Christmas. And we were fine with that. It's so funny because we wanted our little baby sister. She was about 2 years old at that time. We wanted to make sure that she had a good Christmas, and she did, and we did too, because you learn as you get wiser and even older, although there are some old people that are not wise, that it's okay. No, it's better to give to other people than to receive. And I don't know about you all, and you can put a comment down below, but I feel sometimes we've got so much that not only is it making us soft, but it's making us disconnect from the spiritual. We have to have some things before us, some challenges before us. And if we don't, we start making up things. And I think we're seeing some of that in the world right now. Some of it real and some of it manufactured. And hard times, as they say, make strong people. And we need a little bit of that strength of the old Appalachia. And I know that deep down inside all of us Appalachians that it's there. We've never lost it. We just don't use it much anymore. Now, I know you've heard the pot calling the kettle black. Now, that was a warning because gossip is not well thought of. I think there's I can't remember exactly if it's 36 or 42 phrases in the Bible that tells you not to gossip. All right? So the pot calling the kettle black is a reminder to be careful about gossip because you could be as guilty as the person that you are talking about, right? And we often are. So it's something we have to be careful of. Now, I like this. I'll give you what for. Remember I told you our parents and grandparents in the mountains chose violence on many days when they got up? Yeah, that's something that you did not want to hear. I'll give you what for. So just know that. And it's raining cats and dogs. I've heard that so many times when there's a huge torrential rain. And right now I live on a mountain in western North Carolina. And Lord, I've been using that. It's raining cats and dogs so much lately. Actually, since was it October, September, that Helene came through. And the storms we've had have been really spectacular, I guess you could say. But it's definitely been a situation where it's been raining cats and dogs in these mountains. Oh, okay. Oh, Rob, I'm so sorry, Rob. When I said that I'd do psychic readings, there's two things I can't talk about, and that's money and children, like babies. Those are the two things that I can't read about because my lawyer says it's too litigious. Isn't that sad, people? Isn't that sad? But it's true. So, Rob, if you have anything personal, relationships, just future in general, anything like that, then I can do that. And again, my apology, Rob. Let's see, what do we have? Oh, we've got Carrie Burkall. My daddy used to say, honey, be careful who you hang with because when you hang with dogs, you get fleas. Yes, Carrie, I remember that. Oh my gosh, my own mom would say that too. I mean, it's their way of trying to keep us on the straight and narrow, right? And it's also something, think about it, that you remember all these years later. Like one of the sayings my mom had was, useless as a tick on a dog's behind. So you didn't want to be thought of as useless as a tick on a dog's behind, and you certainly didn't want to be thought of as hanging out with people who are so bad that they could actually give you fleas. All right. Anyone else that might? Let's see. Let's see. What's that? Lord, ain't that the truth? Yes, yes, Christy. Yes. Let's see. So if anybody, I'm going to close out. Let's see, what time is it? It is, oh, I've got 2 minutes. So does anybody have a last reading that you'd like to do or a last comment that you'd like to leave? And if you're interested in another segment of this, because this is kind of fun, just going back, and there's so many, oh my gosh, there's just so many. Like, there's one, I'm finer than a frog's hair cut 4 ways. I mean, just, if somebody asks you how you were, that's how you might answer if you're in a really good mood. So, let's see. Oh, here, Carrie, let's see. Anybody else? No? All right, we're going to... Let's see. Oh, Rob, you're so sweet. Thank you. Could I just, oh, yeah. Okay. See future, please. Yes, Rob, you can. All right, Rob. All right. I will tell you, you've got something on the burner right now that's going to come to fruition. You've been thinking about it for a while. So, just let things take its natural course, I think this is going to be a good thing for you. All right. I'm not quite sure what it is. I'm trying to stay away from business, but if that is what it is, then good. Yeah, Carrie, you get fleas. I got that. All righty. And and I did future. Okay. Um, all right. All right. Is that it? Okay. All right. I love you guys. Oh, September. September. Oh gosh. Carrie. Okay. Carrie. Oh. All right. All right. In September, there's something you need to move on. I can tell you that. All right. There's something that you need to make a decision on. It's going to be percolating. It may still be percolating right now. So just understand that you're going to come to a crossroads. It may come in September. There's something that's going to be happening, but there's something that precedes that. All right, something that precedes that, something that you need to do. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you all for being here. Rob, thank you for your sweet comment. There's something that's percolating. You just need to take advantage of that, okay, when it does happen. Love you all. Be well. Peace out. Until next time.